Hi YouTube, hi YouTubers, hi duckies, how are you? I hope I find you well at the moment. Aren't we having a lovely summer? But you could say it's a bit of a worry as well, considering global warming and stuff like that. If you believe it or you don't believe it, you can't really deny a lot of scientists, the vast majority of scientists. And this weather that we're having around the northern hemisphere can be seen as a bit of a worry. But that's what this vlog's about. It's about my fears for the future. And when I really talk about my fears for the future, what I really mean is my geopolitical fears for the future. Stuff like, where will America be in a few years' time with Trump as president, or after Trump's been president? The rise of the alt-right in America and in the UK and in parts of Europe. The increasing partisanship of politics, in this country the permanency of austerity, which seems to sap the country of everything it's got and leave people in destitution, and the asset stripping of things like the NHS by a Tory government that just continues to say it supports the NHS. There's a lot to worry about. I worry mainly that we're seeing the cyclical focus of history. We see the rise of the right, similar to that which we saw under Mussolini. I mean, a lot of people could say Trump is a sort of Mussolini type leader. He hasn't taken dictatorial powers or anything, but he can be seen as a Mussolini type politician. And when I mean a Mussolini type politician, I don't mean the Mussolini of the Hitler years, the 1930s. I mean the Mussolini of the 1920s, when fascism was seen as the third way in politics and something new. Now, the worries that I have are the rollback of political correctness, right? Political correctness is a term used by the right to bash the fact that they can't say in certain places what they would really like to say, even though that doesn't seem to hold them back any longer. They seem free to say whatever they want to say, and that seems to me something to do with Trump. He's emboldened people to feel that they can come out and say things, and that the political correctness has gone out the window and people feel emboldened to say what they like. But what was political correctness? It was just basically something that said you don't use hate speech. Don't use hate speech. Don't be horrible to people. Don't force your bigoted opinions on other people. Keep them to yourself. Make them private. I don't want to hear them. But that's all been swept away, and people feel emboldened to say anything. Now, I want to give an example of this. When I first transitioned in between 2004 and 2007, I received a lot of abuse in amongst those years. It wasn't every day and it wasn't constant, but I would receive a certain level of abuse in a week. When I transitioned the second time back in 2013 till now, at first through 2013, 2015, 2014, 2015, I found it a lot easier to transition. I didn't get half the looks I got in town. People didn't really much pay attention to me. I was left to go about my own ways. I felt comfort and security. And we all felt, the people involved in the charity I'm a trustee of, we all felt that there'd been a turnaround and things were progressing and things were getting better. But then after Trump came about, after 2016, after Brexit, that's gone away, and the levels of abuse I used to suffer when I first transitioned back in the early to mid noughties, sorry, it's now prevalent now. I mean, if I go out on my own, I get stared at and maybe comments made behind their breath. But when I go out with friends and stuff, there is a lot of comment making. People do feel emboldened to say stuff to us because we are trans women. Some of us are visual as trans women. I believe it's called walking as trans. But we're visible. You could see me down the street. As soon as I walk into a shop and open my mouth, you know I'm trans woman. It's fairly obvious. But before that, we didn't get the abuse. Now it's coming back and more vicious and more in your face. People feel emboldened to say things that I don't think they'd otherwise have said in the past. And that's what's worrying me, the rise of the right. People feel emboldened. When was the last time you saw anything like Charlottesville outside of the civil rights movement in the 60s and early 70s? That Charlottesville demonstration with the alt-right and the alt-left fighting in the streets, Antifa fighting in the streets, was just unbelievable. A protester being run over by an anti-protester, if you could say they were, a fascist. And now people are saying, how do we discord with them? Do we ignore them? Do we give them free speech? With all this stuff over Alex Jones having his sites taken down on Apple, on Facebook, on YouTube, some people are saying this is good, get rid of the hate speech, get it out there, and other people are saying no, this is the commons, this is the public square, you're taking away a voice, and who will be next? And people like Jimmy Dawes and Carl Kalinske point this out, that if you can get rid of Alex Jones because you don't like what he says, what's stopping you from getting rid of, say, a left-wing commentator who doesn't believe all the stuff you hear about Russia in the media, or who questions the neoliberal order, as it were? This is the worries that I have. We're shifting. Trans rights in America have already been put back, I'd say, another 20 years so far. They were advancing and advancing and advancing in the US, and now they've been put back. And I'd say by a considerable margin. The talk that comes out of America is of charities losing money, people being denied jobs because companies feel emboldened to do it, presidential decrees being made to cut back on LGBT promotion and support and funding. And you've got to wonder where it all leads to. Look at the way the migrants coming into the US were treated with their children taken away. That's just horrendous. And then being prosecuted for being refugees. They're being prosecuted because they're refugees. They're not just migrants. They're fleeing their countries in South America because of the poverty. The fact that the US keeps the South America in a tight heel and under its control to a lot of the time. And right-wing governments are beginning to take over where left-wing governments had been before in South America. Like in Brazil, for instance, and Ecuador. And these parties are aligning themselves with the US once again. And anybody like in Nicaragua who's left-wing, or maybe in Mexico like the new socialist president there, are put upon and are undermined by Western countries, especially the US. It's a worry. It's a worry. And I'm concerned. And I see it turning. Back in 2015 on the Fresh Brew podcast.co.uk, quick plug, we've done 100 videos, podcasts by the way, that's all we did in the end. But in one of the podcasts we did in 2015, I said I was worried that there would be a backlash. But my worry was that there would be a backlash against the trans community. Not that there would be a backlash against all minority communities and anybody who was perceived as different, and that Trump would come to power and all the chaos that's ensued around him. It's just... The world is a scary place, and it's heading in a scary direction. As we mentioned at the beginning, global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, it's obviously happening. I know you can't ascribe one natural disaster or a heat wave to global warming, but I've lived long enough in my 42 years to know that the environment has been rapidly changing all around me compared to what it was in the 80s. The weather I experienced in the UK in the 80s is vastly different to what it is now. Vastly different. But with the geopolitics, I can't see much relief. Trump is supportive of the fossil fuel industries, coal, gas, oil. And that's not good. He's planning to destroy the world 2 times over with his policies for coal. So where do we go from here? Well, it would be nice to think that the progressives in America will come out on top and that we'll see a shift in November. That's where you need to look. In the general election in November in the US. If there is a shift to a slightly left of centre, left-wing persuasion in the way that different candidates are elected and a progressive slide comes in, the blue wave as everybody calls it, that would be a positive sign. There's no guarantee that's going to happen. And with the electoral system the way it is, the Democrats need to sort themselves out before they get a new person to replace Hillary Clinton. Are they going to get Bernie Sanders to run? Is Bernie going to run as an independent? I don't think he will. But will he run as a Democrat? Or will they pick somebody else who was supposed to have gone to the Bilderberger meetings? Some other strange Democratic senator who's no one's heard of, who's only centrist. The left wing in this country is populated by the youth, who now see left-wing politics as a way out of the neoliberal order that has given them nothing but pain, grief and misery. We have to hope on the youth. We have to hope on, well, people like me under 45 and people under between the ages of 18 and 25 coming up to vote. We need to embrace different... Look at it in the electoral system. We need to change the electoral system simply in the UK for a start. Proportional representation is the best form of government, I find. But our first past the post system favours the Tories. And what are the Tories trying to do? They're trying to gerrymander 40 seats so they will get a permanency in power. They've been all you've got to do is look at the Tories. They've been in government in the Conservative Party in the UK has been in government for on and off for over 200 years. Look at the state of the United Kingdom as it stands now. Do you think the Conservatives have benefited this country in any way, shape or form, other than making the rich richer? The mass of the population in this country have not progressed. We've managed to get ourselves out of extreme poverty, but we haven't advanced any further. And our society is seemingly falling apart. It's divided over such issues as Brexit. It's divided against alt-right and alt-left as much as it is in the US. All you got to do is sit down and listen to LBC to listen to the comments people leave behind. Some of it's quite shocking. So yes, I'm worried. You can see that things are shifting. The blue May wave, if it comes in November 2018, may show us that there is hope and light at the end of the tunnel, and this is a brief spurt, and that the rise of the right is something that will wash away with progress in society. But there's no guarantee of that. We may just be in the 1920s like it was in the 1920s in the 20th century. The slight rise of the alt-right, the new wave, this I'm trying to think of this sort of new wave of fascism that's grown up, this proto-fascism if you like, and it may just be starting. We may have to go through a lot of shit first before progress and progressive policies and thoughts and ideology come to the fore. It is said that the right rises, and in the wake of the right is chaos and war, and then the left rises and a new consensus is formed, and out of that a better society is created, one on the left. But if that's the case, we're going to go through a bit of grief in the future. I want to do more on Brexit. I think that needs to be done. But I don't know how to frame it. so I'll do it here. The concerns I have over Brexit is a hard Brexit. People who voted for Brexit knew that there would be troubled times in the short to medium term, but in the future they were positive and felt that the country would get better, it would find its feet, and it would be in a better position outside of the EU than it is currently. A lot of people in the Remain campaign think it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket and we're going to be eating each other by the end of the decade, in the beginning of the 20s of the 21st century. Maybe, but I don't know if it'll be that bad. I'm kind of hoping it won't be, but hope can be dashed. Brexit has caused a lot in my country, in the UK. It's divided us. It's divided friends. It's divided families. It's divided communities. It's divided work colleagues. And there is no clear indication of what anybody entitled to vote for. I could tell you the reasons why I voted in the referendum, but the reasons why I voted might not be the same as the reasons why another person voted. Everybody's opinion is different. But it does seem like the argument of immigration was a main factor in the Brexit vote, which is a damning indictment of the native white population of the United Kingdom, if you want to put it that way. But I know a lot of people who come from ethnic minorities here in Southampton who also voted for Brexit. So what does that say? I know a lot of people who come from Europe who voted for Brexit. What does that say? So yes, the country is a screw up and America is heading that way. And with America distancing itself from Europe and putting demands on Europe and the Western Cold War consensus alliance seeming to fracture under Trump, and Britain desperately seeking a trade deal with Trump's America at some point, hoping that they will get this glorified trade deal that will lead on to other trade deals. Everything is up in the air. Everything is up in the air. And I don't know where it's all going to land. And when it does land, it might not land in a pretty way. And we might have to go through the rubbish bit by bit. But that's what we have to put up with. That's the world in which we live in now. It seems like the neoliberal order is on the brink of teetering. It's slowly fragmenting. Maybe Donald Trump is the last president of the United States. I doubt it, but maybe in a way he sort of is. Or maybe he's the beginning of America's decline. All great powers decline. Maybe America is due its decline soon, and maybe Trump is a sign of that. He is the symbol of that start of the decline, that retreat, that eclipse. So I thought I'd leave you with that, just some of my concerns. It's just brief ramblings of things that have been going around in my head over the last few months, stuff that bothers me. I hope you don't mind, and I hope it doesn't leave you too depressed. It shouldn't do. Look out for the blue wave in America in November 2018, and let's hope it comes about. And let's hope that progress is always marching forward. We may take one step back, but we're constantly taking 2 steps forward all the way. Got my little clicky bit. So stay positive, YouTubers. And I'll see you soon. Bye.